Good morning again, everybody. We continue with the second part of this very important suttas, Prasadika Sutta, Tiga Nikaya 29. This is found in the SD 40.6. Now the Tiga Nikaya suttas tend to be very long because they teach some very important, usually some kind of social teachings, social realities, advising us what to do, what not to do, to prevent Buddhism from decaying, to solve problems, things like this. Yeah? Okay, so today we continue from page 164. Prasadika Sutta starts off with the death of this Niganta Nataputta, the Jain teacher. Okay, this is another religion in the Buddha's time. When the teacher died, the whole Jain community or their monks and nuns were quarreling with each other. They were uncertain what's right, what's wrong about the teachings, things like that. Yeah? So the other monks noticed this and they were concerned. So here it's very interesting because instead of being happy at the failure of other religions, the Buddhist monks, they were concerned. They said, wow, look at how these people, how these Jain members, they are quarreling with each other in this array, lack of fellowship after the teacher died. Why is that so? So they mentioned this to the Buddha. Then the Buddha said, well, yeah, this is quite a big problem. So the Buddha gave this long teaching, or the what I call the council monks. They got together and they put these teachings together to show this is what the Buddha taught. Because the Buddha teaches a lot of things. The Buddha might speak the whole day, for example. So the Buddha talks about the importance of the teacher. You have a good teacher, then you have elder monks, elder nuns, and lay practitioners. Very important. So number one is a good teacher. The Buddha is our teacher. Number two, you have the renunciants, monks and nuns, different kinds of nuns, 3 levels each, remember? The seniors, that means 20 years and more, and then the middlings are those like 10 to 20 years, and then the younger monks. Usually younger monks will be the first 5 years, after 5 to 10 years. First 0 to 5 years they're called Navaka Bhikkhu, new monks. And then 5 to 10 they're called middling monks, after that they're called elders. Those are 20 years in the ranks and above, they're called Mahadeva, great elders. Nuns also like that, yeah? And then you have lay practitioners. Lay people who are practitioners. So some, very few are arahats, then some are non-returners, others are once returners, others are stream winners, and so on. Some keep the rule of celibacy, in other words, they don't get married, or even though they're married, they keep themselves away from sex, things like that, yeah? And the category are lay people like us who have families, who work, and so on, okay? So this is the last category. So you have all the Buddhas, and this is found in all these kinds of followers are found in the teaching. So this first part, the Buddha is talking about the community as a whole, okay? So in this concluding part, the Buddha's focus on the Dharma. How to protect and preserve the Dharma. If you look around today, you can go anywhere, like the Sunday, you find there's so many centers. No? If we can agree on what are the Buddhist teachings, so let's say, okay, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, and all the basic things with this Dharma, and what are the basic Buddhist practice, and you just do a simple survey like today, or maybe next Sunday, or different Sundays for 1 year, you just go around different centers in Singapore. You can find out, okay, what kind of teachings do they have in these different centers? You can be quite surprised that many of these teachings are very different from what the list of important teachings the Buddha gave us. In fact, in this last part of the sutta, the Buddha gives what are called 7 sets of teachings. In other words, when you talk about Buddhism, obviously you have to talk about these 7 sets, not about other things, right? Not breaking the precepts, definitely. So in other words, when we set up a temple, a center, it's obvious, right? We have noble aspirations. We want to study the Dharma. We take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. We keep the 5 precepts. And we are supposed to be community leaders and examples. So we uphold all these precepts and practice and examples so that other people also follow us. Then we have a good Buddhist community. And people outside the Buddhist community look up to us and say, oh, look at the Buddhists, they're so peaceful and they're kind to each other and so on. If we don't, then they will just laugh at us, they will keep using us as the bad examples, right? So this is where, in other words, we can change things. We change ourselves, we work together with people who want to change themselves by studying the Dharma. So this is what the Buddha is focusing on in this second part. Starting in section 16, can you see section 16? This section is very interesting. You see, I've written a subtitle there, nothing to minus, nothing to add. So here the Buddha says, Chunda is addressing this monk Chunda who observed what happened in the Jain order, and the voice is concerned with the Buddha. It says, Chunda, as regards teachers that have arisen in the world today, Chunda, I do not see a single teacher who has attained to the peak of gain and the peak of fame as I have. So here the Buddha says that if you talk about teachers, he's very happy he has fully fulfilled his duty and task as a teacher. In other words, he has managed to give the teaching in a very complete way, he's given the Vinaya in a very complete way, and he has done his job. Next one. Also Chunda, as regards any Sangha or group that has arisen in the world, I do not see a single Sangha that has attained to the peak of gain, the peak of fame, Chunda, compared to this Bhikkhu Sangha, the community of monks. So here, gain and fame refers to the Dharma, not material things. Gain meaning all the different kinds of levels of sainthood, awakening. Fame means people know, Buddhism teaches peace, Buddhism teaches awakening, right? So that the Sangha, in other words, show this very good example. Then the next part, 16.3. Anyone speaking rightly of this Chunda would say that the holy life, the well-spoken, fully accomplished holy life that has been well proclaimed, is accomplished in every way, with nothing less, with nothing more. In that holy life here means the practice of the Dharma itself. Yeah? It's called brahmacharya, keeping the precepts, practicing meditation, attaining wisdom. That's called brahmacharya. So it's called the holy life. Yeah? This holy life, of course, refers specifically to the monks and nuns. But when we observe the precepts, we are also included in this category. Yeah? Otherwise, they can take this as what are called the three trainings. Sila, Samadhi, Panya, keeping the precepts, practicing mindfulness and meditation, and cultivating wisdom. So the Buddha says, nothing less, nothing more. In other words, the Dharma is complete. We should not take away anything from it. We should not add anything new from it. What does this mean? To take away something from the Dharma is to say, oh, this one, no need to observe this precept, no need to worry about that sutta. We try to take away. When we do that, it's like cutting off one arm, one leg, or worse, cutting off the head. Then there will be no more Dharma. So very careful not to discount Buddhism. Buddhism must be presented completely. Yeah? Because sometimes we have people who are not Buddhists and then they become influential or powerful. Then they'll tell us, oh, it's okay, we Buddhists are very free, we can do anything we like. We don't know where they got that idea from. Remember, there are consequences when we talk in this way, or worse, when we act in this way. And the consequences will arise in this life itself. And then when death comes, the rebirth will be a very painful one because of this wrong intention, wrong views, negative mind, and so on. So, in other words, the Buddha, there's a Buddha Ghosha, he's a commentator. He says if you are a practitioner, it's like you're sitting on an elephant. I mean, if you belong to other religions, this third Gosha says it's like you're sitting on a donkey. The donkey is a very small animal, so you fall from the donkey, it's okay, not too bad, you know. You don't get hurt so badly. Yeah? You break the precept, don't get. Those religions are all kind of funny rules and so on. If you break them, it doesn't matter because they're made by human beings and everything. So it's like falling from a donkey. But if you become a monk, a nun, you keep all the rules, or you become a layman and you're a leader, a lay person, you're a Buddhist leader and you're supposed to lead others, teach them the right things, but you teach them the wrong things. You tell them, oh, it's okay to break the precepts, gambling is okay, things like that. Buddha Gosha says it's like falling from an elephant. You get hurt more when you fall from an elephant, it can be very dangerous also. So, in other words, we have this responsibility to teach people the truth. And we cannot give up. The Buddha never gave up. Because you notice the first chance of the Buddha to give up was very soon after he got enlightened. He looked at the teachings, wow, this teaching is really deep, like in Singapore, we like to say very cheap, and then we give up. So the Buddha took 7 times 7 weeks, 49 days, just he was meditating. He was not hesitating, he was just enjoying his newfound awakening, so happy. And then after that, Mara appeared to him. Mara said, oh, you're already enlightened now. So your goal has been attained. So don't trouble yourself anymore. Attain nirvana right now, pass away. No point teaching the world. They'll just be a nuisance, they'll be troubling you, they won't listen to you. In a sense, Mara is right. But if the Buddha gave up, you and I won't be sitting here together, we'll be suffering in many other ways. But the Buddha said, Mara, I will not enter nirvana until all the 4 kinds of people in the community are there, complete. In other words, they become saints. We're not talking about a society or a group, We're talking about monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen. They all become saints. We're talking about the Sangha that we take refuge in, not the what's called conventional Sangha. They get ordained and wear the robe. This is the Sangha that meditate and you can become streamliners and so on. He says, only when all these 4 are complete, then they will enter nirvana.
You said 7 weeks.
49 days, yeah. 7 times 7. 49.
7 weeks.
7 weeks.
Not 49 weeks.
49 days. I didn't say it was 49 days. Yeah. 49 days. Anyway, so again here, the second time Mara came and Buddha said, no, I won't pass away until all the 4-fold community are complete. Alright? Remember, this 4-fold community is not monastic Sangha, it's a spiritual Sangha, the saints. Alright? Arya Sangha. When we say Arya Sangha, it refers to the 4 kinds of saints and includes monks as well as monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen. But if you talk of the Buddhist order, okay, Sangha is an order, monks and nuns, all those who are renunciants only, okay. So it's very important to distinguish this. Then the Buddha taught the Dhamma for 45 years. Every day, teaching Dhamma, no holiday, unless the Buddha goes for retreat. Even in retreat also, Buddha will be meditating. So, then the Buddha was 80 years old, lying down very sick. And Mara appears to him again. Mara is persistent, Mara appears to him and said, okay, now you are very old, going to die already. Remember your promise you made to me 45 years ago. Can you imagine Mara remembers all these nasty things? Remember 45 years ago, you promised me, you said that when all the 4-fold community are there, complete, you'll pass away. Then only the Buddha said, okay, you should be happy now. In 3 months' time, I'll pass away. Okay, because now all the 4-fold Sangha complete. So the Buddha didn't run away. He made sure that all the saints are there who will carry on his work. And because he did that, the Dhamma is available to us to this day. But at the same time, you must never forget, Mara's servants and slaves are also there, much more than the saints. They're all there, waiting. Whenever you want to do something good, they are there, discouraging you, causing a lot of difficulties so that you give up. And when you give up, you're very happy. You might say that's the wrong kind of giving up, it's the wrong kind of renunciation, You're giving up the Dharma. But in Buddhism, Dharma teaching, we also give up. But we give up negative thoughts. We give up the idea of giving up the Dharma, you know what I mean? We give up being unhappy towards failure. We give up the feeling of disappointment when people don't do the things that we want to do. You know how often I hear people tell me, oh, the sutta is so difficult, so cheap, I can't understand. So I told myself, who can understand that? But there will be people who understand. Don't give up. Right? So, and even the Buddha, before his awakening, remember he was sitting under the Bodhi tree. The 5 months were there taking care of him. Then he realized that if he doesn't take food, his body will suffer and he won't be able to meditate well. So he took some food given by the Lady Visakha, remember? And the 5 months thought that, wow, he's so luxurious, eat so much nice nasi lemak, this Indian style one with cow's milk. But the Buddha knew if he's not strong, he will die before he awakens. The 5 months judged the Bodhisattva and they left him alone. And this part of the Buddha's life is very important. It's always represented in the temple, in the monastery, in the shrine. The lone Buddha always put in the most prominent area in the shrine. The Buddha is always alone. You only see 2 Buddhas in the Lotus Sutra, which is not really a Buddhist sutra. It's a much later sutra. You see 2 Buddhas. This is a total violation against the early teachings. They have their own agenda anyway. So, but here you have only 1 Buddha sitting there. Why? Because this lone Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree means don't give up. Don't give up even when your closest supporters give up on you. Because if the Buddha gave up, he won't become Buddha, see? And we will never get the teaching today. And the world, imagine a world without Buddha. There will be a lot of trouble, a lot of war and violence and so on. So he went on to meditate and he got enlightened. And the 5 months, he went back to the 5 months and then they came back to him, right? So all that you know the story. So here the Buddha is saying, so now you have the Dharma. The Dharma is that even after I have passed away, the Dharma will teach you, the Dharma will educate you, the Dharma will free you. Right? So do not fret, do not give up. Because if we give up, then we become part of the problem also. If we give up, then the Dharma becomes slower in going out. We could have become that bridge. We could make a difference. A single person could make a difference. There was this very beautiful story about this young boy who was very compassionate. He was walking along the seashore and he saw that the sea, the ocean, had washed up lots of starfish. The starfish are still alive, so many of them. So he took them one by one and threw back to the sea. So many, I could only throw 1 or 2 at a time. And then some holiday makers, some people came along, saw him and laughed at him and said, hey, young boy, what are you doing, You want to throw all the sea fishes, all this starfish back to the sea. So many of them, how can you ever do it? Then the boy said, well, rather than talking to you, I at least save this particular starfish. This one's life is saved. I throw back. Even one life is important. That is why, when I teach suttas, there was one recently. I went to this center and then people were all going to watch a movie. There was some Buddhist movie going on, and they thought nobody will come for sutta class. Then the monk told me, today everybody went for the show. I said it's okay. There will always be somebody for sutta class. I said even if 1 person comes, I will still teach. Actually, we got 2% increase. We got 2 people. Plus a few others later on. So, and then we record the sutta. I say, so it's never lost. The teaching is open to the globally. Anyone can watch it, even though it happens in one place. So that's why even 1 person is important to listen to the sutta. Notice in the Buddha's teaching, the Buddha very often teaches only 1 person. Right? The Buddha doesn't talk like a gospel rally, thousands, Angulimala was alone in the forest, very inconvenient place. The Buddha went there to teach him. Today we want nice, comfortable aircon there, they give talks, right? But Buddha alone went to see one person to help him, to save him. So remember, if one person is important, and don't give up. Small effort. And one last story here. The story of the squirrel. It's a very famous story. It is a Jataka story. The story goes that long time ago, when our Bodhisattva was not enlightened yet, he was born as a squirrel. This Indian squirrel got a big brush of tail. It's like other squirrels, but the tail is very big. And it's got 3 marks at the back. So this Jataka tells a story of how the 3 marks at the back of the squirrel came to be there. The story went like this. So this squirrel had a litter of baby squirrels up in a tree, this old tree trunk, dead tree trunk. And there was this heavy rain, and this tree trunk is beside a river, or beside a lake, and the trunk fell into the lake. So the little babies are all struggling in the water. So what can squirrels do? Squirrels can't really swim well. So this mother, she used her brush, the brush is the tail, to scoop the water out from the lake, determined to empty the lake, mind you. Now, you and I, you can talk to a squirrel, you say, you might as well give up. You'll never empty the lake, right? Big thing, But remember, the story went like this, because the squirrel made such a big effort against all odds. Sakra's seat, Sakra king of heaven, became warm. It means that somebody is challenging him for his seat. Because if this squirrel die, even whether succeed or not, this squirrel will take over Sakra's place. So Sakra will be worried. So he used his vision. He said, "Oh, there's this squirrel challenging my place." Okay? So he goes down to test the squirrel, whether the squirrel is really up to it or just doing it because he wants to do it, and not really helping anyone. The squirrel said, so the Sakra says, why are you doing this? You just got a small tail, you can never empty the lake. The squirrel said, please don't talk to me, don't waste my time, because every moment counts. Every time I swim less water, there will be less water in the lake. So the Sakra was very impressed. He said, this squirrel really means what he says. So he gently scooped, we're talking about big god here, he scooped the babies out of the water, put it back on the land. And then he says, okay, I will make everyone remember this wonderful, decision, this asseveration you made. So the story went that Sakra took all the mountain, crushed it so that you get this essence of the earth, and then use his finger and 3 fingers, but a small, squirrel, so rub it back like that. So the story goes, the children love this part. You tell them, you say, look, you see the squirrel, and there are 3 lines there. And these 3 lines are put by Sakra because the squirrel was determined. He never gave up. Okay? So the meaning of this story is that when you don't give up, there are devas watching you. Sakra is watching you. Okay? And you're creating this good karma. One day you'll be able to meet the Buddha. While those people who promote gambling, who promote adultery, who say don't go for sutta study, who do all the wrong things against Buddhism, they won't be able to see the Buddha. They'll fall into the suffering states. And it'll take a long time before they come back. But even these people who have done these bad things, they have done something good. In a sense, they have come to the temple. That's the good thing they have done. But they have taken the long, long way there. So in a sense, you have to have compassion for them also. So that's why you've got to really, in a sense, be stubborn. In a sense, one telling them, don't do this. Why are you taking the difficult way? Because nobody told them. Maybe you feel you can't tell them, but there'll be others who will be able to tell them. So let us be our bridges, be there, so that people can cross over and help all these kind of people who are in the Dharma, but they do not protect the Dharma. They do not even know they are destroying the Dharma. So this is where they need to be reminded. But we should never give up, in other words. So this teaching reminds us of that. The Pasadika Sutta reminds us, in other words, keep the Dharma going. So this sutta is so long, reminding us to continue working for the Dharma. Now the next part is a bit about wisdom. Okay? The Buddha talks about Buddha Karamakuta. I remember he was one of the two teachers. This ancient teacher made use of a riddle. Apparently, if you have a clever riddle, people say, oh, this teacher is very wise. So his riddle is, looking one sees not. A bit like a Zen koan and so on. You find a lot of these people today, they say, oh, this teacher is very clever, he's got this koan, and there you go, you see. But just because you know a koan doesn't make you enlightened. Yeah, it is a clever philosophical trick, that's fine. So the Buddha says, 16.5, Buddha Karamakuta Chunda made this remark, looking one sees not, but seeing what does one not see? Right, so here according to this Uddaka, it says, oh, it's a knife, The knife, you look at the knife, you see the blade, you see the flat part of the knife, but you don't see the cutting edge of it, So that's the riddle. So the Buddha says, so what's the big deal? It's just a knife, Right? It says, merely in connection with a knife. Look at 16.8. But Chunda, this saying that was spoken by Uddaka Ramabuddha is low, vulgar, worldly, ignoble, not connected with the goal. It will not help us to become enlightened. It's not very useful. Then the Buddha answers, okay, in the Dharma, what's meant by looking one sees not? The Buddha replies, in 16.12, he says, in this very holy life, which is complete and so on, this is what you see. You can see people practicing, people meditating, people keeping the precept, you can see that. But what, there's nothing to be removed, nothing to be added to this holy life, the Buddha's teaching. Nothing to minus, nothing to add, okay, it's complete. But what is it that, so what you don't see is nothing to be added, nothing to be removed, that's one. We also can say that you see the teaching, but what you don't see is when people change, when people become strenuous, people become once-returners, or non-returners, or arahats, you don't see them. You see also, you won't know, you see. So all that we can do is with practice. But we can sense when we're near people, this teacher or this person is peaceful. And when this person talks very wise things, helpful things, right? So we want to be near this person because we can see this person to be happy, peaceful, right? But otherwise, it's very difficult to see spirituality in people. So the Buddha goes a little deeper there. Alright, any questions so far? Everything's okay? You can follow that. Okay, now the next part, section 17. Now comes the part where the Buddha gives a kind of like a systematic way to classify the Buddha's teaching. This sutta was probably recorded very late in the Buddha's life, maybe the last 5 years or 10 years at the most. The style of this sutta is very similar to the Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Okay? So here, in other words, the question is asked, what are the basic teachings the Buddha has given? So here, the Buddha gives a list of 7, okay? Look at 17.4, section 17.4. And what, Chunda, are these teachings directly understood by me, that I have shown you, that all having gathered and assembled should not quarrel, but rehearse or recite meaning for meaning, word for word, so that the holy life would endure, stand long. It is for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world, for the benefit and happiness of devas and humans. Notice here, devas and humans also. In other words, if we behave badly, especially in the Buddhist community, the suttas, the Buddha tells us that we not only affect human beings, but we affect the gods. Because the gods also are watching us, the lower gods, the sense world. So the world becomes chaotic. Right? Now Singapore generally is quite peaceful, unless you go to St. Lim Square and go shopping and have problems. So the papers are talking about now, right? They're trying to correct them, okay? But generally very happy place here. But you go to Middle East, you go to Afghanistan, very dangerous. Anytime a bomb may explode, right? Because there from day one they're born, they learn violence. Right? So can you imagine if you go to a Buddhist center, Buddhist temple, you learn the wrong thing. And people go there to find out the Dharma. So you can imagine the kind of chaos it will cause. It's going to affect a very big area. So here the Buddha says, okay, we need, how do we prevent this? One way is to know what are the teachings we need to remember. So here the Buddha has given us a very simple method. Just say you must remember this list. Okay? Just remember, you chant them also can, just remember them. Because why? As long as you preserve the teachings, later on there'll be wise people who look at them and say, oh, this is what it means. It's just like you may not be enlightened, you may not even understand the suttas very well, but you have studied this here, and you have looked at it, you know it's very nice and peaceful, and you have friends who say, hey, why don't you read the sutta? Huh? See, your English is very good, your understanding is very good, you have great wisdom, you may understand this better. You know, there's a very interesting story someone told me about the Sutta Discovery Volume 1 and 2, you know, the printed version. I've been given away to a lot of people. Some thank to me, some say, no, I don't know this is Sutta, they're terrified by it, as if it's like some magic charm, you hold like that, and these demons run away. And sometimes people have to take it, they take it home. And then there was one case, this person had moved away from their condo, and for some reason they didn't take away this book. Whether by purpose or by accident, they left this book on the top of the, you know, those post box, you know, the mail boxes you have in the void deck, right? He left it there. And then there's this person who came to see me, he says, you know, that day I was just walking around and checking my letters, and I was thinking, you know, wow, I think I would like to learn some suttas. I wonder where can I get the sutta book? And he goes to his mailbox, and he saw this book jutting out on the top of the shelf, and he looked at it. There is Sutta Discovery Volume 1. So it's like almost like a Bodhisattva living there just for him. You know? So this is where, even though, I mean, let's assume a worst case scenario. Let's say this previous person say, "Ayo, the Sutta book, so hard to read, I don't want it anymore." Or you can say, "Oh, I don't like Piya, so I don't like whatever he likes." So he throws away the book, but he's too afraid to throw in the dustbin. Okay, so he puts it on the top of the letterboxes. Even that, he's done a good thing, because this person came along and discovered this book. You see? That's why sometimes, you know, I remember in the old place, you know, in Bukit Timah, occasionally, whenever I take a leave, I will just leave one or two books, the simple choice. You know. I will leave it there and let people take it, because I know that a lot of people take a leave. You know. So the books always disappear after that. I did not leave the sutta books there because I'm afraid if they're not Buddhist, I might throw into the dustbin. So I only put a simple choice. So in other words, every effort we make, use your imagination, you can reach out to people with the Dharma. And then one day they'll come back, they say, hey, you know, I found this book in the lift, and then of course just smile, to say, I don't want to put it. So the Dharma can surprise us if we don't give up on the Dharma. Okay, so what are the teachings the Buddha wants us to remember? The Buddha says, 17.8, they are as follows: the four focuses of mindfulness, the four right efforts, the four paths of spiritual power, the four spiritual faculties, five spiritual faculties, the five spiritual powers, the 7 awakening factors, the Noble Eightfold Path, right? Okay, here are the very numbers, huh? 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 7, 8. You add them all together, you get 37. As a set, they are called the 37 limbs of awakening. 37 teachings. 37 important points of the Buddha's teaching. Some of them overlap, okay? So these are called the 7 sets. So in other words, if you want to summarize the Buddha's teaching in terms of doctrines, you can say these are the 7 important teachings. The first 4 is about meditation, right? The second one is about right effort, and so on. So altogether you get 37 awakening factors. So this kind of systematizing is very important. In other words, when people ask, what did the Buddha teach? Well, you have a list here. You don't have to know everything. You just choose one. Anyone will do. They all lead to the same way. It's like 7 doors. 7 doors, okay? And each door has got so many number of people attending to you, something like that. And then the next part, the Buddha talks about resolving differences of opinion. This is a very interesting, very useful area, where the Buddha tells, okay, what if people disagree with you? Even within the Buddhist community, sometimes people may disagree. They disagree, look at section 18, disagree both meaning and wording. So they have different opinion with you. They don't agree with you in terms of how you chant the suttas, the words are different, the meaning also they see differently. So the Buddha says, don't argue with them, just accept them as they are, and then try to listen to them, and try to understand what is it that they see, how is it that they see differently. You can try to accept them that way. Try to understand what is it that makes them so different. And then sometimes they understand, they accept the same wording, like the same chanting, but the meaning is different. They interpret differently. Again, don't argue, don't quarrel with them. Just ask them, okay, what is the meaning that you understand? How different is it? And compare, okay? And try to understand the difference. So that you deal only with the difficult part. And then from there, try to create some understanding. And if the person say, okay, I still want to stick to my belief, that's fine, no problem, right? Remember, the Buddha said this very similar thing in the Udumbarika Sihanada Sutta. The Buddha says, he is talking to the non-Buddhists, the wanderers. He says, come to me, I will teach you the Dharma. It's up to you. You don't have to give up anything. You don't have to give up the way you are, whatever you believe in, whatever you have learned. Just listen to me teaching. And those things that you think are good, you take it, practice it. If you think you don't agree with it, fine. That's all I say. Then the Buddha says something very interesting. He said, if you follow what I teach, within 7 years, you will get awakened to what I have taught you. You get the results. Even as short as 7 days, you get it. But Mara was there, in the background, sometimes blurred the minds of all those people. There were like a few thousand of them in front of him. Can you imagine Mara could work that kind of distraction? Mara could blind the minds of a few thousand people before the Buddha, mind you. We're not talking about here or any famous monk. The Buddha, they couldn't understand. Or they just suddenly go blind. The Buddha says, what is 7 days? Buddha does Ananda, 7 days. They just need to come a 7-day retreat, And none of them volunteered. They're all wanderers, they're all religious people who claim to be spiritual, None of them took up that invitation. The Buddha said, well, let's see how Mara works. By the way, Mara goes even up to the high heavens, to confuse the gods. You won't know Mara when you see him. You think it's your colleague, someone in the temple, someone you know well. Mara appears in a very, very deceitful way. But the person will tell you things which are against the Dharma, which ultimately destroy the Dharma, bring problems to the Buddhist community, bring problems to the temple, and so on. That's Mara's working. That is why we cannot give up. We must be there. Number one, we know it's Mara. Mara is overcome by knowledge. You say, I know you, Mara. You are the one trying to discourage me. You are the one trying to cause disunity and problems in this place and so on. So number one is knowledge. Number two is your effort. Don't give up. So just by being present. Alright? Take the example of Kuan Yin. The Chinese love Kuan Yin. You see, in a sense, Kuan Yin is present everywhere. And that presence means the message is don't give up. Even if you've done something wrong, don't give up. There's still hope. If you learn from the mistakes, if you see the suffering you've gone through, then you ask why? What happened here? Kuan Yin is compassion, but when you have this compassion, wisdom arises. In the Chinese stories, Kuan Yin also is presented as reciting the wisdom sutras, the Heart Sutra, for example. So you have wisdom and compassion, balancing each other. So my emphasis here is Kuan Yin doesn't give up on anyone. So we should not give up when we see problems in the temple, we see difficult people. They need us even more. Okay, so then the last part, the Buddha said, okay, if you meet someone and this person agrees with you with the wording as well as the meaning of the teaching, that's wonderful, right? So that is a gain for everyone. Then you go on with your practice. Now in the next part, the Buddha talks about more practical things, section 22, proper use of permitted life supports. So, yes? Yeah.
The fourth part of spiritual power and the five spiritual powers, are these similar?
They're quite different.
So what is the fourth part?
The fourth part, Idipada talks about meditation, step-by-step meditation. Whereas the five powers, the five faculties, you remember the diagram center is mindfulness, and then you have faith, opposite is wisdom, and the other side is effort, opposite is concentration, and the middle is mindfulness. So they do meditation but different way. In someone who's not yet an arahat, they are called spiritual faculties, but when they are arahats, they are called spiritual powers. But they're the same thing. They're the same thing. Okay. In people like us, when we practice, we need effort, we need faith, and so on. Whereas in the case of arahat, it's already cultivated in them, so they're called powers. Okay. You want details on this? You can see note 161, the 7 sets. Okay. See introduction 3. Okay. You can know the details there. So.
147.
Yeah. Sorry.
Introduction 3.
Introduction 3. What page is it? Introduction 3. Okay. Is the number correct? To the 3 trainings. Okay, actually it's page 135, section 6. Can you see the list there? They got numbers there. Okay, so the references are all given to you there. If you want the full list, you look up the Mahaparinibbana Sutta and so on. Okay, so these are the details. Actually, remember, just make a note change to note 6, not 3. Because sometimes I keep getting the notes and I forget to change the numbering. So they are different, right?
Means if this gene just, let's say that he did not pass away, so our Buddhist teaching will be disorganized. This is why the gene teachers pass away, then the disciple went to ask the Buddha. Correct. Come up with the list of to organize one and the other.
Because the Jain teacher did not systematize his teachings.
Systematic.
Correct, yeah. Well, in a sense, some of them couldn't systematize because the teaching is still uncertain, you see. Whereas in the Buddha's case, he knew what he was teaching, so he could easily systematize them. And because he did that, then the Dharma has come down to us even after 2,500 years. But according to tradition, there are some Buddhas in the past who also do not systematize their teaching. They just teach, and then the arahats while they are alive, and then when they pass away, the arahats pass away, the teaching also dies. There are some Buddhas who do that also. So although they are fully enlightened, but they do not want to let the teaching continue. But I suppose that this should be rare, because most Buddhas will somehow ensure that the teaching will continue. So remember the two things that preserve the teaching. One is the Dharma, the other is Vinaya. So in the suttas they are called Dharma Vinaya. The Dharma is the teaching. The Dharma is what frees us from suffering. The Vinaya is like the casing, okay? The casing that protects the Dharma, the rules, the precepts. Okay? So that's why you have both of them. Neither should be discarded. Okay? The Vinaya protects the Dharma. The Dharma can survive because of the Vinaya. In a sense, the Vinaya also is based on the Dharma.